We're live here. Yes, we are to a virtual book launch. I am just excited to see live stream. We were doing the Zoom thing for first, and I want to welcome first Paul Hollis, author of the Hollow Man series and also owner of Hollow Man Publishing. Paul, this is exciting, right? Now we do these like emceeing of book launches in Zoom, and only certain people could see it. Today, they all could see it as we're
Right.
live streaming on 8 different platforms. How are you, Paul?
I'm doing great. And today we have with us Frank Fiore, who's a great multi-genre author. And today's we're going to talk about his newest book called Daijin. Welcome, Frank.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I
So
guess the
we're going
best.
to really break this down, and when we do virtual book launches, and again, everyone, if they want to purchase Frank's book, again, you can find it. It's available on Amazon right now. If you have questions, drop them in the comments of any of the live streams, and we'll answer them later on. But this whole process of how you decided to write Daijin, which is really interesting, as it's spelled Igin, and you came up with this idea. How you really are creative to figure out stories and how they fit into specific genres that you enjoy, correct?
Right. In fact, I like that we should show the audience the book. There we go. That is the book.
Very
And
nice.
there's a couple of different elements of why I wrote this book. I always like to play on what ifs. And the thought came to me one day and said, what if instead of Japanese pilots in a kamikaze plane, suppose it's an American pilot, in fact, an American teenager. How can I get him into a kamikaze plane? Because it doesn't seem to make any sense. And the reason why I like that is because many of my books focus on the concept of alienation and how a person is alienated from his society, even from himself. And I always like to explore themes like that. And Daijin is a perfect vehicle. So here we have an American boy in Japan who then is alienated both not only at home in California to begin with, but when he gets to Japan, he's got some real alienation because he is a fish out of water in a culture that he knows nothing about.
Yeah, and that's that. So this is just mind blowing to think that an American could be a kamikaze pilot in in Japan during World War II. Paul, what are you thinking when you heard that storyline? That just doesn't make sense. It's
Well,
so different.
it's fascinating. It's an intriguing concept. So I was anxious to get started reading it, and which I've done, and it's a great read.
So
Well,
Frank, kind of going into it more, what research did you find out that this could probably happen? An American born Japanese Japanese kid decides to become a kamikaze pilot for Japan in World War II.
well, this concept is not that far gone. An actual Japanese American during World War II, raised and born in America, Japanese American, he decides after reading all the literature and the propaganda that he wants to go back to his home country or go to his home country and become a kamikaze pilot. And you can find that book on Amazon. It's called Shig, Schig, Shig, and it tells the story of him coming to Japan, learning how to become a Japanese pilot, a kamikaze pilot. Of course, you're saying, how can there someone who write a biography about being a kamikaze pilot and surviving? Well, if they're doing much of the research, you realize that many of the kamikaze pilots did survive, and for a number of different reasons, and became kamikaze pilots for a number of different reasons. And in my research, I find out that yes, they were kamikaze pilots who would die for the emperor, right? There was a percentage of those, but there was another percentage that didn't become kamikaze pilots because they would have died for the emperor. But as you read the book, you realize that at that time, Japan was being bombed into oblivion by B-29 bombers and P-51 Mustangs flew. They had the freedom to fly anywhere and attack anything they wanted. So the Japanese at that time just felt that they were threatened. Their family was under threat, and the only way to defend their family was to become a Japanese and then a kamikaze pilot and go after the ships, the carriers that were roaming the seas and allowing these planes to take off and do their worst on the Japanese families.
Yeah, and so how, and I guess we don't want to give away the book for sure. We don't. When you thought of this, how does the family feel about this? And how does the United States feel about somebody from the US deciding to become a kamikaze pilot for Japan? That's not a good thing, right? If you're at that time period.
No, no. Well, the Americans didn't know anything about American teenage boys becoming a pilot. It was very unique, but it does mirror the book Shig for the motivation of why they did it. And when they sent the kamikazes out, there were two types of flights. There was the flight that would actually do the crashing into the plane, into these ships, but there was another flight that went with them that would report back, because they have to know if, obviously the pilots didn't, kamikaze didn't get back, but they would not attack ships. They would do the reporting, and then I guess take their turn when their turn comes up to actually crash their planes into the American ships. And then but we had different types of people on these flights, and in my book I show the hero being in that kind of a flight, but wanted to crash a plane into the American aircraft carrier anyway, but through a plot twist, he doesn't get to do that. So
It's interesting. I have a question for you, Frank. Were the suicide pilots, were they at the first of the war, or these came about at the end of the war?
now this strategy was developed by the end of the war. The last several months of the war, they had no way to stop the American carriers. They had no air force. Japan had no air force. Okay, they had no navy, but it was decimated by that time. And the planes they had left, and the bombers, they actually had bombers too. They converted those into kamikaze weapons.
See, that's wild. That's really crazy. And we're going to get into some Japanese facts that Frank knows, especially World War II facts, during this live book launch. Remember, anyone can go right now and check out and purchase the book, available on Amazon, and it's Ijin, In the Hands of God. And is there no other Ijin when you search Ijin? Is there any other place that you could search and find it?
It's supposed to be in all the Amazon internationally, the different Amazon sites and Barnes and Noble. But when you search, it's best to say Daijin, Igin, in the hands of the gods, and that way it'll come up on the search stuff.
How did you come up with the word "in the hands of God" in the
Well,
title?
that is a quote coming out of a chapter in the book between the Japanese father, who's also a pilot, and on the Yamamoto staff, and the diplomat that was trying to bring peace between America and Japan. And they were talking about, what do you think the luck is, or what do you think the chances are? And the diplomat just says, well, it's in the hands of the gods.
Okay. Now let's just jump back a bit with how's the feedback been so far? People have read the book. What have you heard so far?
I'm sorry, what was the
The
question?
feedback of people that have read the book so far. Paul has read some of it, but what have you been hearing?
Well, I have the books now in the hands of friends and what have you. And a couple of them basically said that they didn't realize what the Japanese history was in World War II. They learned about that. They learned about the culture. And they also learned about how Japan got there. I mean, just like Germany, we're talking about at the time sophisticated modern civilizations, okay, gone mad. And how, why, and I delve into that in the books. In volume 1, and you could see that the slow march toward militarism in Japan, and then volume 2 and 3 when they come out, you'll see how it develops through the war, and how Connor himself, Connor Williams, the American teenager, how he deals with this, and how he learns the different cultures through the different individuals that he meets, and finally has to face what the other kamikaze pilots had to face. How do I save my family? Because I know these Americans are going to kill them, and so I want to save them.
Totally save them in any way you can, right? And that's
Yeah.
that's the thing. You know, when I think about listening to the story, Frank, it's something that could definitely be a movie, just based on the story and everything. Do you picture everything that you write, because you've written so many books, that it could be a movie?
Well, when I write a book, I don't write chapters. I write scenes. I like to see, here's what this would look like on the big screen. So that's how I write a book. That's how I write. They're not chapters; they're scenes. And you put it to effect. One of uh, the best rules of writing fiction and of writing a movie, if you really stop and think about it, every scene that they have has some sort of conflict in it. Conflict between people, conflict between ideas, conflict within each individual characters. And because that's what makes a story interesting, is that conflict, and to see how it moves along. And you'll look at any movie, and any type of movie, any type of book, if it's successful, if it's a good read for the person viewing or buying the book, then there's going to be conflict in it, and that's what makes it the book interesting, the movie interesting.
No doubt about it. What was your favorite thing about writing the book?
Yeah, sorry.
What was your favorite thing about writing the book?
The end. Paul knows what I'm talking about. To be finished. That was a quote by some author saying the best part was when it's finished, when I finish it. But no, but I enjoyed the research and learned. I learned a lot when I write my books. And I also put my own personal experiences in if I can.
Have you been to Japan?
I've landed at the Tokyo airport on a layover to Hong Kong for a few hours. That was it.
Do you want to go to Japan at one point in time?
Definitely would love to go to Japan. I mean, the culture now, I mean, what a refined culture. In fact, if you people are familiar, and the audience is familiar, that an FX channel is redoing Shogun. And Shogun, at least the original Shogun, give you a really good feel about that culture and how it developed into what happened in Japan eventually. And so we hope to watch Shogun on the FX channel, and the viewers will learn a lot about the roots of what happened there, and how they developed into Japan in World War II.
It was really a goal of mine to get to wrestle in Japan, especially with the big guys that were in pro wrestling then. Now they don't have a lot of big guys like the Giant and Baba and stuff, but I've always had a dream, well, at least when I was a professional wrestler, to wrestle in Japan. I got to go to Germany, but I want to go to Japan. So I guess I'm putting it out there right now.
Sumo wrestlers.
If I have all these goals I put up, I'm going to wrestle in Japan. Okay. And that's a shout out to anyone listening to these live streams. And now, oh, Paul, it's not just going to YouTube. They just go on social media and they're able to spot these different things. Now, volume 2, is volume 1 going to really shock people to want to read volume 2 without giving it away?
Well, hopefully volume 1 will get people interested in the characters that I laid out, and what's going to happen to them. And exiting volume 1, we have Japan at war. They just bombed Pearl Harbor. Now, so what's going to happen to the family, to Connor, to the characters that are developed in the books? What's going to go on? And the characters they're not just all gung ho. There are some, especially the army, they're really brutal training and brutal people. While the Navy didn't really want to go to war. They knew if that attacking America would be a very big mistake, and their discipline and their ways, they obeyed the emperor, what have you, but they didn't go whole hog like the army did. And if you think about it, who trained the army and the Navy? Well, the army was trained by Germans,
Right.
German consultants, while the Navy was trained by the British. So right there, you begin to see the German approach to the war and the training of military, and the naval approach, and
Right.
you can see the divergence there.
Definitely Navy. Germany was better Navy than Japan, you think?
Germany had better navy? No, they didn't. I mean, they lost their navy. They were ground. They're like, even Hitler admitted that we're a ground force. There's no way he couldn't figure out how to get over to England. Of course, that 90 miles of the English Channel, right? And then of course they had to confront the Navy, which was the British Navy, which was huge at the time, as opposed to the German Navy.
Let's think about the alliance now. How that alliance came about. Japan, Germany, why? They made no sense to be allies, right?
Well,
Japan.
in the book, they talk about three enemies, right? And there's the real enemy, there's the enemy within, and then there are friendly enemies. And that's how the Navy looked at it. And the Navy was against the tri-pact. They didn't want to get into it because they knew what would happen. That they'd have to follow whatever Hitler and Mussolini did, and that would bring in into a war against Britain and America. So the tripartite pact was fully accepted by the British, by the Japanese army and the military, but it was the Navy that was tried to fight against it. So finally, they couldn't do it anymore. They had to work with this thing. They didn't like the idea that this was really an army war. They said that. Then they say it in the book. You'll see this was really an army war, and all the one of the Navy for was to ferry the army around.
Right. I start thinking about this historically. Now look at the times we're in right now. Think about the wars we're in. The war in Croatia. Croatia. Oh my gosh. And live, I'm messing up. Ukraine, Croatia, Ukraine. No, the war in Ukraine, definitely the war in Israel. Are we seeing another assassination of Archduke Ferdinand in its place happening right now for World War III, Frank?
Well, there are two reasons for that. The main reason is that we have leadership that is just they just don't want to get off the spot. That whole thing in Yemen, for instance, should have been solved months ago, but the present administration is trying to maneuver around and try and stay out of war, and all they're doing is they're showing our enemies appeasement, which is only making them stronger. I mean, Israel has to take out Hamas no matter what. Hamas said, "Yeah, we're going to get you no matter what." It's like a shark coming at you, right? All it knows is the dude is going to kill you. Great white. Okay, you can't negotiate with it. You can't appease it. You have to get rid of it, and that's what Israel has to do with Hamas. And what do we do with our administration? We tell them, ceasefire and do nice. And you don't do nice to a great white that's coming to eat you.
Right. Do you think we're going to be in a world war?
If we don't get the current administration out of here, yeah, I think so, because our enemies we've given comfort to our enemies, and we're not supporting our allies, and that's what it's coming down to.
So let's think about the alliances that are happening right now. The United States really doesn't have an alliance, and then the evil alliance of Russia, of Afghanistan, of you look at specifically enough. China, it's really a big, and North Korea. If they all align together, and the entire Middle East, there's no way us in Europe can even win this war. No way.
We're not learning the lessons of World War II at all.
No.
And how we got into it, all the appeasement and what have you. And it's really interesting. The American military, or certain views of them, of the Japanese, that we'll have to worry about their bad pilots because they have to wear glasses. Can you imagine that? So creating a strategy based on that kind of hubris, and it does the mistakes like that. We underestimate our enemies, and in World War II, we're doing it again now. And we're trying
because of all the appeasement in World War II, letting Hitler do what he wanted to do. Look, it's surprising. Yeah,
there's evil in the world, and if you can't admit that, then it's going to come and get you. I'm just sorry. There is evil in the world. The people, the liberal progressive is that no, we can negotiate with it. And here's another weird thing, talking about not knowing reality. Now, when the war broke out in Europe, the British Air Force said, okay, we're going to go bombing the factories and what have you. Obviously we want to prevent Germany from making weapons or what have you. Well, there was a movement in businesses, of businesses in England saying, "Oh, you can't bomb the factories and stuff. That's private property." And it's to have that kind of mindset that you can't because it's private property, and you can't win a war that way with that kind of mindset.
You're absolutely not going to win a war that way. And that's the concern. I remember the one from Charlie Wilson's War, the woman from Charlie Wilson's War I had on my show. I forget her name. And she told me this 15 years ago, the alliance that was developing. And she was very, very concerned. I can't remember her name. Is she alive or not? Alive or dead? We'll have to look. And before you know it, I'll get my crack research team on that for sure. When you go live, it's like, oh man, now it's live. It's out there. It can't be deleted. I made a mistake. Oh boy, out of my 20,000 shows. Now, and this is again our virtual book launch. Go ahead and purchase the book Ijin right now. It's available on Amazon. Beautiful cover, Frank. Show it one more time to the audience, because if you're a historical buff, you should pick up In the Hands of God, a novel, Frank F. Fiore, and pick up Ijin today. How did you come up with the cover, Frank? Was that was the process too? Did your publishing team, or is that more your design?
No, my publisher did. He came in good. And I don't know what we're going to do for volume 2 and volume 3. I know what volume 3 is going to be. That's going to be a cover that I designed for the whole book. Hold on 1 minute.
This is great as he's going live, as Paul and I are here live book
Now,
launch.
Look close at this.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of kamikaze pilots.
Yeah, I like that.
Person in the middle is a young teenage boy, white.
So which one is that supposed to be, Frank? Second one?
Volume 3.
Oh, so you already picked volume 3 out already before volume 2?
For the cover, I'd like that to be the cover. I don't know what they're gonna come up with volume 2.
How did you create the cover for volume 3? They did.
Say it?
Oh. Did they create volume 3's cover?
No, I didn't create it, but I had someone under my tutelage to say that's what I want. I wanted this because it grabs your attention. What's this? What is it? It's kamikaze pilots, and then you get this American little boy.
So that's important. Have you seen where your best-selling books have been based on the cover, Frank? As the first one?
Well, not really. I mean, Sci-Fi has gone through a couple of iterations, but the covers should help sell the book. The cover should tell the story about what the book is about, or at least get the interest. But good covers are done well, and that'll help sell the book.
All right, Paul. Any other questions for Frank?
No, fascinating. I can't wait to finish it. I'm partway through it, and it's a great read, folks. Yeah, you need to read this one.
Yeah, Paul, did you find the history dry, or did I do a good job of bringing it to life with the characters?
Yeah, I think you did actually. My father fought in the Pacific in the Second World War, and so he through Guadalcanal and Iwo Jima and Saipan and Wake Islands and Okinawa. I mean, I can't even count them all, but yeah, no, it was pretty much the few stories that he told me. It rings true from what you're saying.
All right.
Good.
Very good.
Well, guess what, Frank? You started this with the live stream. We're going to go live stream for every book launch, every show, everything on my based on Media Giant Productions, a new thing, because live stream's a different thing, right? We're really producing this whole thing, Frank. It's done after this. That's part of the new Media Giant Productions involving the live stream television. All right, so people need to go right now to Amazon, pick up the book. Frank, I'm sure they could drop you a line. We need reviews, right? Of people that have bought the book so far, right? To write Amazon reviews, right, Frank?
Right, write reviews, and if they want to reach me for some reason or other, just I'm Frank at frankfiore.com. Frankfiore.com is my domain. So Frank at frankfiore.com.
All right. So March 20th, I guess, or the next Tuesday, I guess the third Tuesday in March, Cyberkill. Oh man, I'm going to be talking AI forever. Maybe we can make this really exciting for people. Maybe we can start to model AI only in this live stream. We'll talk about the book and we'll take questions about how to use AI to your advantage. I think that would really get people excited for that book launch. And if they purchase the book, they can basically we'll have some special incentive. And then Cyberkill the movie, we got to have that happen, right, Frank? So check out Frank Fiore on all different social platforms. Appreciate it. Paul Hollis, go to the hollowmanpublishing.com, or I'm sorry, hollowmanseries.com, and then
Right.
paulhollisauthor.org, and that, or net, or com,
Com.
paulhollisauthor.com to check out Hollow Man Publishing. I'm telling you, you need to write a book today, and you got to go with Paul. Appreciate it, guys. Signing off of this live book launch. Take care.